right, everyone. Welcome to today's episode of Words of the Wise. Today, I have Chief Carter from Tappahannock PD in Virginia. 18 years total in law enforcement, and prior to that, he spent 5 years in the Department of Corrections. Welcome to today's episode, Chief Carter. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, I'm looking forward to it. So I actually didn't know until just now, right before we hit record, that before law enforcement, you were in DOC. Really tough job. How was that? And maybe what were some of the skills that you learned working in the Department of Corrections that helped you as you transitioned to your law enforcement career?
Oh, wow. Well, Department of Corrections takes a unique skill, and the best skill that you can learn from is communication, talking your way through problems. And that is the best acquired skill that it goes in any public safety profession, just learning how to effectively communicate and then understanding differences in people. So that is a big thing from corrections to law enforcement.
I really like that you added effectively communicating, because we can communicate all day long how we like it. But if it's not resonating with the person that we're speaking to, it's not successful, right? And so This idea of how can you almost have to transform the way that you talk to each individual based on who they are and how they respond to it, which is it is a huge beneficial skill to have. But I also think it's challenging, and especially now, I think that with technology and social media, communication skills have started to dip a little bit. And so I agree with you. I think that we really have to reinforce this idea of communication being a de-escalation tool, but effective communication is
absolutely right. And then, with DOC, a lot of that in law enforcement is respect, respecting other people who may be different than you or who may have encountered a challenge. That I have learned starting early on at the age of 20 in corrections, that, respect goes a long ways. And that combined with communication skills will significantly help you in any type of, not just public safety, but any profession that you go in. So,
yeah, well, and there's a difference between liking someone or agreeing with someone and respecting someone. You can maybe not care for someone or not agree with someone, but you can still show everyone respect. And I think that that's another thing that we have to remind ourselves of, is how are we treating everybody, and are we treating everyone in the way that we would want to be treated, or we would want our family to be treated, which is with that level of respect.
Right. Absolutely. Yes.
You told me I really, every encounter we've had, I'm always laughing. Like, I feel like you have like the funniest responses to things. I really appreciate it. It's refreshing. So 18 years in law enforcement.
Thanks.
How has your career looked so far? And take us maybe a little bit through the journey of rising through the ranks and now being chief of police, and, how you were able to get there, and maybe some of the successes and challenges that you've had along the way.
Right. Well, throughout my journey, it hasn't always been easy. And it's every step of the way, including now, it's a learning process for me. Even in the chief role, I'm continuously learning about new laws, about new behaviors, and how to be an effective leader. So it has been a challenge, but it also has been very, very rewarding, because just to see your success over the years, where you start from, and I always like to include my DOC experience, because starting at the age of 20 and then seeing yourself mature over the years, and pretty much having the profession assist you in that maturing process, and to make good critical decisions. So it's been rewarding, but it also, like I said, it has been a challenge as well, because there's things that kind of get in your way. from being successful, or there's decisions that you may make that could hinder you from the ultimate success. But I always like to tell even my current officers now the importance of learning from your failures. And success, I have a thing that I always say, that success comes with failure. What if we never tried?
Yeah.
We would never know if we could be successful. So over the years, I've learned a lot. I've grown in my leadership. I've been a leader for quite a long time. I've supervised quite a bit of different areas in law enforcement, and now I'm over the entire operations. But I've, experienced investigations, the administrative roles, the internal affairs roles. So I have a wealth of knowledge in multiple different areas that has contributed to my success for now. And I'm thankful. But the most importantly, I thank God first, because without God, I wouldn't be sitting where I am today. So.
Yeah, thank you. It's interesting. I've developed a little bit of my own philosophies and perspectives on things, over the years. And I don't know if I believe in failure. I don't know if I believe in that word failure, because I do think that every time we fall down, it's an opportunity for us to learn and to grow. And there's success in that. And to your point of what you said earlier, what is the biggest, if we are going to use that word failure, what is the biggest failure? Is it trying and falling down, or is it not trying at all? And to me, not trying at all is the biggest failure, and I think that that's the thing that we're going to regret the most. When we look back on our life, we're going to be like, man, I wish I would have taken that swing. I wish I would have taken that shot. I wish, I would have taken that opportunity. And I was having a conversation recently. I was at a conference and I was having a conversation about, there was a girl there, and she was being really hard on herself. And she was like, I just want to be better in this way. And I feel like, and it was kind of this idea of like, oh, I feel like I'm failing here and I want to be better here. And I told her, I was like, I think that we should always be striving to be better.
Yes.
And we should always want to grow. But I also think that we have to have moments of reflection where we celebrate how far we've come, because there's always going to be the next thing. There's always going to be the thing where we feel like we could be better. And I am that person. That is my personality. I'm like, all right, let's keep going, but I think it's an injustice to ourselves if we don't take a moment and ask ourselves, would our younger selves be like blown away with where we are today? Right. And for most of us, that answer is yes. Like, oh my gosh, if you went back to my like 8-year-old self and like showed me, I'd be so proud. I'd be like, yes, that's so awesome that you're doing all these things. And so I think that we have to remember how far we've come, even though we still have a ways to go. And I think that helps us to also, understand that in order to get where we are today and in order to get where we want to go, failure is a part of the process. And it's all a part of that learning journey. So absolutely. Yeah,
I agree 100%. Yeah. And just so you know that, I read a little bit about your background, and I was just amazed how far you have come. And it always amazes me to hear how people gain their success and where they start from. And I'm sure it wasn't an easy journey for you. And I talk to so many people that says, hey, Chief, should I do this or should I do that? And I'm like, well, guess what? If you don't take that first step, then you're going to be continuously standing in here asking me, should I do it? But it's just amazing to hear where people start from and then where they end up. So I agree with you on the celebrating where you've been. I totally agree with that 100%.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I think also remembering where we come from, I don't think that any of us would be in the position that we are now if we wouldn't have experienced the things that we did in our life, both good and bad.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's why, it sounds weird maybe to other people for me to say, like, I'm grateful for all the things that I went through.
Yeah.
They were, they were really hard, but it also fueled me. And it was a part of like what made me so passionate about what I do today. Yes. And I don't think I would have had that if I hadn't experienced those things. And I'm sure that you can relate to that too. And so, how can we celebrate? And it sounds so counterintuitive, like how can we celebrate the hardships and the adversities, because that makes us who we are. And I've said this before on this podcast, I'm a huge believer in this. I don't think that it's bad to have a chip on your shoulder. I think you can decide how you use it. You can use it for good or for bad. And as long as you're using it for good and that's fuel, like, I'm good with it. So
well, as you know, in this profession, sometimes that comes with the territory. But how do you end up, and how do you control that is very important, Yeah.
And I think we're faced with choices every day on how we want to approach a situation, and easier said than done. Like, I'm sure we've all looked back and been like, man, I could have done that better. But, I think I can put this in like a really simple context. Whenever I'm maybe put in front of a group, like I've done plenty of briefings, I've done plenty of keynote speaking opportunities, and it's always a mixed bag. It's not always people who are welcoming me with open arms. They're like, who's this girl coming in here talking to us about wellness, And I could have the mentality of, they don't like me. Why am I here? I shouldn't be here. Or I can have the mentality of like, I'm going to do my best. I'm going to show up as the best version of myself. And, maybe by the end of it, like some of them will be more open-minded to certain things. And I think that you guys have to do that in your career. You have to go out in the community and understand that not everyone's going to accept you with open arms. And you have the ability to be like upset about it, or to be like that, like I'm going to show them that I'm a good person and I'm going to try. And so, I think it's just all our perspective and how we choose to show up.
Oh, yes, absolutely. Yes.
Did you have any mentors throughout your career?
Oh, yes. My biggest mentor was my mother. And, she's deceased now, but just seeing my mother, how she raised myself and my siblings, and how hard she worked growing up to ensure that we were, had the things that we needed. Every time I think about it, that's my greatest mentor. But I've also had influential people in the community. I've had former supervisors. A former chief, Travis Christian, is a mentor. I had other mentors who kind of guided me along the way to help me, and has been there whenever I needed anything, or to fall back on someone or some advice. So mentorship is extremely, extremely important.
Yeah, I love that you said your mom. That's so sweet. What?
See, people tend to dehumanize police officers so much. So I always like to reflect on my family, because family is so important. And we tend to forget, what's most important. So I always like to reflect back on my family. So,
Yeah. And I think it goes back to what we said before, remembering where you came from. Your mom helped develop you into the person and the leader you are today through values and setting the example. What do you think is the biggest lesson that you learned, or maybe something that she taught you that you still take with you today?
Oh, wow. Well, it goes back to respect, morals, values, work hard for whatever you want in life. That is a major, major, major lesson. And to most importantly, is treat others the way you would want to be treated. And if you just use that principle alone, that will go a long ways. And my mother was very, very influential in our community. And she didn't just role model us, but she role modeled the community as well, people in the community. And she always treated people fairly, with respect. And I think that goes a long ways. So, yes, the biggest lesson is just treat others the way you would want to be treated.
Yeah. I was having a conversation recently about this concept of if you were sitting at a dinner table with yourself, would you like you? And it goes back to this concept of like, are you showing up for people in the way that like you would like that you would want to sit next to that person?
Yes.
Are you conducting yourself? And I think in some seasons of my life, maybe the answer to that question was no. Maybe there were times where like I wasn't acting in the way that I knew that I should. And if I had met me, I wouldn't like me, And so I think that it's that moment of like self-assessment because, are we showing up in a way that we like? And, do we have everything that you said, respect and values and integrity? And, are we showing kindness to people? And it's not just, in the community, but like your peers, other people that you're working with, like, are you showing levels of kindness? If you sat next to yourself, would you like you? And that's a hard question to ask sometimes, especially if you have that reflection and you're like, man, not really. Like, I'm kind of being negative, I'm like always complaining about stuff or whatever. Yeah. So I try to have moments where I have those hard conversations with myself. And if the answer to that question, would I like me if I sat next to me? If that's no, then what are the steps I have to take in order to correct that behavior so that I do turn into that person that I would want to spend time with?
Absolutely. That definitely makes a difference, especially sitting in the role of a chief, because sometimes I have to tell myself, sometimes you have to be patient with people. You have to take your time with people. So, you have to change your behavior as a leader as well, and make sure that, you're treating other people the way you want to be treated. Sometimes I think Chiefs lose that sometimes, but yes, self-reflection is very, very important.
Yeah, and it's hard. It's a hard reality sometimes.
It is,
but there's no way that just like for you guys, anytime there's an incident, I'm gonna say like this as like a sports analogy. You're gonna review the tape, right? Like you're gonna look down and you're gonna be like, okay, what went good? What what are rooms for improvement? And so I think we have to review our own tape. We have to and I think scheduling it is helpful. Maybe it's like you have a meeting with yourself, and that could be as frequent as you want. It could be once a week, once a month, every quarter. Once a year, whatever it is, more often. But can we review our own tape and can we be honest?
Oh, yeah. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. You told me that you are a wellness advocate and wellness is something that's important to you. When do you think that became a part of the conversation and became a priority for you?
Well, a bigger priority when just even before I made chief of police, when I was a operations commander, you listen in law enforcement, you listen to the stories and the officers come to you about certain things. And sometimes you hear the stress that they endure, not only from, the organization, but, just the occupational stress that the officers endure every day. So when I transition over to the chief's role, I have an opportunity to kind of make a difference myself and to not just listen to those areas where officers were calling for help because of stress related incidents, but to actually make a difference and to try to find a solution to the problem. So when I came here to Tappahannock, I really started looking at ways in which we can help our officers become more healthy. And and realizing it, I found out that it didn't take much at all. Just changing the mindset, pretty much. And that's when I really, really found out that it was very, very important.
I like that you said changing the mindset. I would love if you maybe dove into that a little bit more on, how you were able to do that. But um, I've had this conversation recently, and I think that the way that we look at things matters so much. And I think historically it was always like, what program.
Right.
And it's like, how can we reframe wellness as a mindset, as a lifestyle, as a way for you to improve the quality of your life.
Oh yeah.
It's not just about programming and checking
Right.
the box. Like, this has to be a lifestyle. It has to be
Right.
proactive, and this is
Right.
something that's only going to benefit you to get to the end of this career
Right.
with life left in you. And so,
Right.
how were you able to kind of have those conversations with your team and change that mindset so that it was something that was well received?
Right. Well, as you know, I'm sure doing your research, it's tough to get officers to talk about things like health and wellness and things like that, right? But I think the best way and what I use is not being afraid to talk about it
Mm.
and creating uh, I think there's this term psychological safety, creating an atmosphere where the officers will be inclined to come in and talk about it. Not an atmosphere where they're uncomfortable, but developing an atmosphere where they can come in and say, "Hey, I think this is important." But the conversation is very important, and you can't be afraid to discuss the tough conversations, right? I think that's how I was able to do it because when I came to my agency and I learned different things, the first thing we did was a stress reducing activity. And we would listen to music for a minute or two before we started the meeting because, sometimes the meetings are very formal, or we would have quiet time for 30 seconds before the meeting. So I introduced that to the officers and my supervisory staff where they could feel comfortable and letting your guard down. Because that's, a lot of officers have this macho man mentality and they don't want to feel vulnerable or weak. But sometimes you just have to remind people, hey, it's okay to let your guard down a little bit and to relax a little bit. So I think that's how I was able to transition that conversation piece over to majority of my officers, and it has proven successful.
Interesting. I really, I've never heard that before where, and to your point of bringing the guard down, but if you're in the safety of the walls of the organization, obviously that's going to be easier. And so I love that idea of like, how can we play like a little bit of music, or
Yeah.
maybe like, how can we like, maybe we do like a little like squat challenge together. We do like 10 squats really quick. Like, all right, let's get amped up. Let's go. Like, how can we challenge the things that you guys are already doing? Because you're already going to have meetings. There's already going to be briefings or whatever it is that you guys do. So how can you incorporate a little bit of wellness into that space? So that's really cool. I like that a lot. You mentioned earlier that your mom was a big influence for you. She was also a part of your community. And I know that community engagement is something that has been really important to you throughout your career.
Right.
Can you talk a little bit about why that's important? Maybe some of the things that you emphasize, with your team, for the community. And do you think that by having those relationships with the community, that also impacts officer wellness?
Oh, absolutely. So the demands of the community can be tough at times. And when we're talking about officer wellness, that can be very stressful, trying to meet those demands because the number one priority is doing law enforcement services, but keeping the community safe and building that trust between the two allows us to develop relationships, effective relationships, where one side don't see the other side as less important, if that makes sense. Um, Over the past 5 or 6 years, we've seen somewhat of divide in that trust in some sense. But now I see it changing, and it's becoming more prevalent. And we're doing, more community engagement activities to try to let the community know that we are here for them. And we're going to be as transparent as we possibly can so that they can have a safe space, so they can feel comfortable with their local law enforcement. We like to open our building up to people in the community where they can come down and don't be afraid to report a crime and things of that nature. So I think it's important. We need them and they need us.
Yeah.
So it is one of my biggest goals is to engage our community more than we did the previous year or the year before that. We want to do more and more and more so that we can build that relationship. And I think that does go in specifically in line with officer wellness because of the stress factor there, so.
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, everybody wants to feel like they are seen and valued.
Yes.
And to your point of it being a partnership where you guys need them and they need you, the more the community feels seen and valued by you guys, I think that helps to build the trust and for them to, want to work with you guys. But then they're also going to reciprocate that and they're going to see and value you guys for the work that you do. And everyone wants to, I think, show up to work and feel like, what they do is important and it's appreciated. Absolutely. So I like that you said that it's a partnership, that you need them, they need you. And then how can you, build those bridges over time?
Yes.
You came from a larger agency and now you are in a smaller agency. And I'm curious, in the context of wellness and leadership, maybe what were some of the challenges of that, but also some of the biggest opportunities? We know that you guys probably know each other a little bit more than, coming from a larger organization. So what were some of the challenges and opportunities that you saw?
Well, the biggest challenge was cultural difference. And the expectations is somewhat different. But it has taught me to be more of a listener, to kind of slow down a little bit when I was moving fast in a larger agency to get things done, but to slow down a bit and to just take my time and to learn people individually, to see who they are, and it was a major adjustment. But I think I was able to overcome it. And I learned a lot in the larger agency, which when I came to a smaller department, I was able to use those skills that I learned and to have a major impact on the smaller organization, especially when it comes to bringing in technology and new things and new strategies that the smaller agency wasn't typically used to, but we were able to accomplish quite a bit. So,
do you think that being put in the position to come to a smaller agency and to slow down, take your time, get to know people, do you think that is a lesson that someone working in a larger organization can also apply and maybe have systems in place to be able to do the same thing?
Oh, yeah. You have a lot more time. You have a lot more time to really get to know and build bonds and build relationships with your employees, and understanding what each individual employee is looking for, and to really determining how you can assist them individually in their development. And you can do it in a larger agency, but smaller agency, I would recommend someone going from large to small to really slow down a little bit, take your time, get to know people, and really capitalize off of that time that you have. Yes.
Yeah. I used to be the person that said, I don't have time. And what I recognize is we do have more time than we think. It's all about how effectively we're spending our time and how we're prioritizing our time. Right. And I started really looking at a couple things. One, what was I doing with the time where we didn't have anything at all? Right. And before, like, maybe you kind of sit around, or maybe you're like, this is my break, or maybe you like pop on your phone, or, whatever it is. And so those are opportunities to use time more effectively, right? Absolutely. Obviously, I know everyone has to go to the bathroom and everyone has to eat. I'm saying don't do that. But I also started scheduling my calendar more effectively. Mm-hmm. And that can be really hard. It takes a lot of discipline to do that. But I almost feel like, I think my question mark would be, would someone, and you can answer this question for me because you came from a larger agency, but would someone from a larger agency be able to take a look at the head count? So let's say they have 100 people. Yes. As like a round number. And then identify, okay, how many one-on-ones can I have a day? Maybe it's 2. You could have 2 one-on-ones a day that are 30 minutes. And so you have 1 hour out of your day where you do 2 one-on-ones every single day. That's 5 days a week. So now you're doing 10 employees a week. So in 10 weeks, you would be done with your 100 employee head count. And in 10 weeks, you're looking at right around quarterly. Right. So now you know that you can have one-on-ones with every single person in your agency quarterly. And it's not a perfect system. Obviously, maybe you're at a conference or you're on vacation or whatever, but it gives you actually an extra week of wiggle where you don't have to have it every single day to hit that quota. So I think my question mark is, are there more opportunities than maybe we have explored to be able to make those connections with people so that they do feel valued and seen? Now, obviously, if that headcount gets to be 1,000 people, a little bit harder, but maybe you can have a one-on-one with everyone once a year, and you get to know them in that way. And then your command staff and your, line level leadership are also, having those interactions with them too. But I think that's my question mark. Like, is that even a possibility?
Yeah, well, anything's possible.
Yeah. You're like, is it probable? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you set realistic goals and you figure out how you can accomplish if that's your goal is to have a one-on-one with all your employees, which is vitally important. You set that goal, and I'm sure if you, like you said, you appropriate planning, and just strategizing how to get it done, I'm sure you can get that done. It is possible. So yeah. Yeah,
I just threw out quick math, but it was just kind of a question mark of, because for me, and I don't know about you, but if it's not on my calendar, it doesn't happen. So.
Well, my calendar is not as busy. I do have a calendar with dates that I have to keep up with, but I'm thankful that it's not as busy where I can have a lot of more time to do one-on-ones. So.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I appreciate your time. And my final question for you is your words of wisdom for the younger generation. What would you share with the younger men and women who are entering into this career today that either you wish you would have known earlier in your career or something that has helped you along the way that you want to pass on to them?
Right. So my words of wisdom will be, take your time to learn your profession, not just training, but try to get an education along with the training and experience that you have day to day. I come through the ranks and unfortunately, until I got later in my career, didn't really understand the value of understanding criminal behavior and things like that, as far as helping me along the way to do my job or to sit in this seat. And when you understand why people do what they do and you capitalize off of that, you will be a lot more successful in this profession because you won't just have a mindset of locking people up and throwing away the key, but you will change the mindset and say, hey, well, I understand why this person is doing this, and let me try to figure out a way where I can help them, stop their behavior or something to that effect. Education really, really helps with that. Also helps with leadership and being an effective leader. Now, you have some folks that come up through the ranks that, are experienced and they're just good leaders. But just having that extra tool in your belt to add on to your experienced leadership skills, it means so much, and you can make a difference in so many young officers' lives if you reinforce that importance of education in this profession. Mm-hmm. And one more thing that I think is vitally important, it helps with your critical thinking skills. And I would have done, we talk about success comes from failure. There's so many things that I would have done differently that I've learned. But the critical thinking skills in this profession is very, very important. And when you have that skill set along with training, education, and experience, you will be very successful. And you can sit in the top chief position. So, yes.
Thank you. Chief Carter, I really appreciate your time today. Thank you for spending a few minutes to talk to me about leadership and wellness.
Thank you so much.
Of course.